Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 86th episode of Blueshirt Bandwidth. I'm your host, Joe Fortunato, joined occasionally by my co-host, Eric Cohn. Eric, what the fuck are we going to talk about?
There's so much and yet so little to talk about if you think about it. I mean, there are Stanley Cup playoffs that are going on. There's the Knicks, of course. I think we've got to talk about the Knicks.
Did anyone in the comment section take me up last week? Did you listen to the show at all or no?
God, no.
Last week I put it on the people to come up with like the question that we led off with. And
Well, should I look then?
I'm looking now. Oh, here we go. 84 jorts. Beginning of the show question. Who's on your Rangers Mount Rushmore of personality? How they comport themselves, their media presence, etc. We were just talking about him. John Tortorella has to be on there.
Oh, yes. 100%.
No, John Tortorella is the first person.
He's the George Washington
Correct.
of the Mount Rushmore.
He is the George Washington. Not even a question. We had Tortorella. We can get into it after we get through some of the housekeeping, but John Tortorella straight up and down. I don't want him as the New York Rangers head coach ever again. Although, listen, what he's doing in Vegas is fucking incredible. But
also inheriting the team that he inherited in Vegas to do it with.
Fine.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that piece, but yeah, John Tortorella for sure. Is it like current Rangers or can we go recent history?
I think I was going to say, I was going to try to stretch it even more and say, I think there's an argument for, as colorful as he was, Phil Esposito to be up there.
Adam Graves would be up there for sure.
Yeah.
Jágr was funny in his own kind of way. I kind of like.
Yeah.
Who else was like a true psychopath?
Esa Tikkanen.
Couldn't understand the goddamn word that man said,
crazy.
But yes, Esa Tikkanen had to be up there. God, it's a great question. Who else would be up there from is the vibes with Matt Rempe too much to put there?
I mean, like between the Golly G. Willikers kind of stuff, and
I think talked about that before, though. Maybe we find somebody other than Matthew Rempe.
Also, I guess the clarifying question I would have is, I can even argue this because there's at least one president on Mount Rushmore who I'm not a particularly big fan of. So does it have to be players that are up there only for good reasons?
No, it could be. I think as long as the person has the right type of personality, it could be the wrong reasons for sure.
I mean, I think you could potentially make an argument for Keenan. Like, there was only one season. That man was out of his mind crazy.
I could see that. But if we're talking about I guess from a personality standpoint, I'll bite on that one. Okay, that's fine. So we have Tortorella. Are we going with Keegan?
Keenan. If you want to put Keegan Jarvis
up there,
yes. Congratulations, Keegan Jarvis. You have been named to the Mount Rushmore of New York Rangers personalities.
It would be
great accomplishment.
It would be so much easier to do this with the list of players that are unbelievably good but have no personality, like Adam Fox, Brian Leach, easily just right there, boom, boom. You don't even need
just the vast majority of players, frankly, which is kind of sad and disappointing from a hockey perspective. And one of the reasons that it's a difficult sport to market is because you don't have a lot of crazy, wild personalities there. I know I'm forgetting some people.
Another one, zero personality.
Yep. I know I'm definitely forgetting some players from the late 2000s probably who were personality, but I've just tried to erase a lot of that from my memory. I guess.
I don't know. I'm just thinking of anybody who I remember being actively out of their mind.
Yeah. I mean, the only truly standout obvious answer that I think either of us have given is Tortorella.
I think this is actually a very hard question.
Tortorella.
Yeah. If we're talking about personality, Adam, if we're talking about good traits, right? Adam Graves is as good of a human being as there is on God's green earth. So, like,
and not a dead fish on camera when being
correct,
interviewed.
very easily, like, him. Outside of that, I don't even, like, I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? The Rangers don't have many interesting people, I guess.
Hockey just doesn't, like, for the most part.
Anyway, welcome to the show. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for joining. Blueshirtbanter.com. $85 a year, get you all your ad-free access to the New York Rangers. $40 a year, get you access to our Discord. You can ask questions in the question thread like we just read from. You can hear your name. 5 stars, leave a nice comment. Talk about how much you love me and how much you hate Eric. That makes me feel good about myself. And me feeling good about myself is, quite frankly, quite important. Episode 86 of this podcast. We have done this 86 weeks in a row, Eric. I can think of one New York Ranger who is often my pick for, like, most obscure New York Ranger.
Okay.
Which
one?
Be, Woltek, Wolski?
Wojtek Wolski.
Is it Wojtek? Wojtek Wolski?
Yep.
Although, should I trust you about this? Chip and I had to do an entire thing about the fact that you can't say Wolf Pack on last week's show, which I guess you found out about because of the AI, now that I'm thinking about it. Interesting. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense now. Either way, Wolski's the only guy I can think of. And I remember being, how many years did he play for the Rangers? One? Like that half season?
2011 to 2012. I'm not even sure that spanned
the entire year. I remember he scored like
2010, 2011, and 2011, 2012, but only 9 games in 2011, 2012. He finished up that season in Florida.
Didn't he score a goal with like 1 second left to win against Arizona? If I'm remembering this correctly.
Was it him?
I believe it was him.
I think you're right. I forgot that it was him that scored that goal.
That's my memory of Wojtek Wolski.
Or wasn't it Callahan that scored that last second goal? I thought it was Callahan.
I feel like it was. Well, I'm sure Charlie is going to tell us what he thinks it is, even though he's
fucking
wrong about things. Charlie, you're still not forgiven, Charlie. This is the second time that you've wronged me. You did not take nearly enough responsibility in the Ombudsman Report. And now, you know what, Eric? Bring that son of a bitch out here because I want to see if he's made amends.
You still have yet to even attempt the other two. I can just tell you because you're not going to get it.
Okay, go ahead. I have no idea.
2011, Jeremy Williams.
Also 2011?
Also 2011, Jeremy Williams played 1 game.
Who is
3
Jeremy
minutes,
Williams?
I don't know. 3 minutes and 43 seconds time on ice. He had previously played a couple of seasons for Toronto, a grand total of 31 games for Toronto over 4 years, and played 1 game for the New York Rangers, and he did nothing in it with only, again, 3 minutes and 43 seconds of time.
What position did he play?
Right wing.
Okay.
And the last is Josh Juris.
So you're just making names up at this point?
No, that is an actual person who existed.
Zero memories of Josh Juris as a human being. Or Jeremy Williams. Yeah, all right. Well, whatever. Episode 86, $85 a year. We did all that. You can bring Charlie out now.
Yeah. All right. For the podcast Ombudsman Report for Blueshirt Bandwidth episode 85, where, of course, every week Charlie will listen to the episode and tell us what we got wrong, or in this case, what Joe and Chip got wrong, because I was not here last week. Starting with joined occasionally by Chip. Joe mentioned that we are occasionally joined by Chip. Since making his podcast debut in episode 57, Chip has joined 8 of 29 episodes, or 27.5% of all shows. Is Eric Canadian? Joe said that Eric is basically Canadian at this point. Eric isn't nearly polite enough to be considered Canadian. That's a good point. That's a good point.
All right, Charlie, I'll give you
episode 85. With no Ranger having ever worn 85, this was declared the Mike Richter episode because Richter was drafted with the 28th pick in 1985. Joe remarked that it was noteworthy that the 28th pick was a second-round pick. In 1985, the 28th pick was the 7th pick of the second round because there were only 21 teams. The 28th pick would be a second-round pick until the 1999 draft when the Atlanta Thrashers joined the NHL as the league's 28th team. The Thrashers won the draft lottery that year and decided that Patrick Stefan was a better first overall pick than one of the Swedish twins on the board. Stefan was a more disappointing first overall pick than Alexis Lafreniere, and is perhaps best known for his notorious struggle with an empty net 8 years later while on the Dallas Stars. Season ending in OT. Joe mentioned that he lived through watching his team lose a Stanley Cup Final game to end their season in overtime, so he can sympathize with Sabres fans having to go through that. In addition to the aforementioned Stanley Cup Final loss, we had to watch the Rangers' seasons end in overtime in 2008 and 2012. Of course, the Rangers have been on the other side of that coin in both 1997 and 2015. The Rangers ended two-team season in overtime, the Panthers and the Devils falling victim in 1997. The Penguins and Capitals in 2015, and most recently, the Rangers knocked out the Penguins in Game 7 overtime in 2022. Joe's Stanley Cup prognostication. While discussing the ongoing playoffs, Joe said that Colorado is a wagon and going to steamroll whoever comes out of the East. Since then, Colorado has not won a single game and is on the verge of being swept by Vegas, and by the time this is out, probably will have been swept.
All right, but wait a minute. I have a question here. Okay. Am I wrong, though?
Yes.
Why?
You said that they were going to
Would Colorado not?
Yeah, but they got to get there first.
Yeah, fine, fair, but my point still stands.
They're getting steamrolled right now, so I think that's enough to at least cast some doubt.
The team is not in the East.
Look,
I don't know.
Teams that are worse have beaten teams that are better before.
Color me unimpressed with either Carolina or Montreal.
That's fine. You're still wrong. The team that you think is going to steamroll a Stanley Cup Final isn't going to see it. I just said
they would steamroll. We're never.
Colorado is a wagon and going to steamroll whoever comes out of the East.
Well, unfortunately, the powers that be
they're not going to.
Play, so.
They're not going to because they're not going to get there.
You know what we call this, Eric? No contest. That's what you do.
Wrong. Wrong.
No contest.
You're wrong.
Where everybody claps.
You're wrong. Quinn Hughes extension. The need for Bill Guerin to lock Quinn Hughes up with a contract extension was mentioned. Players are eligible to sign a contract extension beginning on July 1, the summer before they are to become a free agent. So that is when Hughes can sign an extension. Bruce Cassidy. Bruce Cassidy was fired as head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights and replaced by John Tortorella with 8 games left in the regular season. With the Golden Knights continuing to pay Cassidy what he was owed on his contract, they have the right to deny other teams the opportunity to interview him, and they have done as much with their division rivals, the Oilers and the Kings. The NHL Coaches Association claims to be, quote, monitoring the situation. Tort's press unavailability. John Tortorella failed to appear at a mandatory press conference following Game 6, in which the Knights closed out the Anaheim Ducks to advance to the Western Conference Final. The NHL personally fined Tortorella $100,000 and are forcing the Knights to forfeit their second-round pick. Tortorella and the Knights were reportedly upset with the NHL over their decision to suspend Braden McNabb 1 game for a late hit on Ryan Paley. And finally, Mitch Marner from Toronto. While talking about the potential for the Knights to win the Cup, it was mentioned that Marner could take the Cup for a victory lap around Toronto. Marner is from the Greater Toronto area, and he could go on quite the victory lap of the metropolitan area if he desired. Marner was born in Markham and raised in the Thornhill neighborhood. He grew up playing hockey in Vaughan before transferring to the Don Mills Flyers based out of North York. And that concludes the podcast Ombudsman Report.
All right, let's talk about John Tortorella because we talked about him before.
Yes.
How fucking awesome is this?
It's kind of
how
great.
Awesome is this? He comes in like he's not even the coach. He's an interim coach
8 games. Yes. It
And
being well, first
he's
of
a
all,
win away from the Stanley Cup Final.
being an interim coach and pulling a stunt that costs him $100,000 and Vegas a second round pick is possibly the most John Tortorella story that you could possibly have.
Balls as big as the building. I know he says the quote from him is stones as big as the building. Balls as big as the building. Like, just no notes. The man genuinely doesn't care. It's unbelievable how much of a badass John Tortorella is. And the fact that Tortorella and /or Mitch Marner are going to win, theoretically, the West and then get themselves to a pretty favorable Stanley Cup matchup. And I mean, at this rate, obviously we're reverse or we're jinxing this, but if the Stanley Cup ended today, Mitch Marner is he's winning the Calder Cup, Jesus
He's
Christ, the Conn Smythe.
he's
So
he's
so
winning
like
the
he's winning
Calder
the Rookie
Cup
of the
of the
Year.
American Hockey League. Yeah.
Or yeah,
Neither the Calder. That's the Calder Trophy.
It's way later
The
than
Calder
it should
Cup.
be. Either
Yeah.
way, he's winning the Conn Smythe, and it's just perfect. And then everything's coming out about Toronto with Gavin McKenna, and still don't know what's going on with Austin Matthews. Just no notes on everything that's happening in Toronto right now.
Yep. The John Tortorella Vegas thing is, look, I don't have the pointed animosity towards Vegas that I know a lot of people do out there. I like John Tortorella, as you were saying before. I love John Tortorella. I just don't want him coaching my hockey team. I want to be clear. This does not change that, right? Like, John Tortorella was handed a stacked roster of the Vegas Golden Knights, 8 games remaining in the regular season, and they're going on an absolutely wild playoff run. Certainly, he has played a role in Vegas being as good as they have been. But that Vegas team was already a very good hockey team and was going to be one of the better teams in the West, no matter what, if they've been coached by him or Bruce Cassidy, I think. So I'm just happy for Tortorella. I love having him in hockey. I love having him around. Again, I don't want him coaching the Rangers. And, I know Chip kind of said this trollishly, but it is good for anybody out there who is trying to make the extrapolation. No, having John Tortorella coach the Rangers right now would not all of a sudden make the Rangers a much better team.
I was going to get to this point. There is so much revisionist history going on with the Rangers right now, and I actually saw people making comments about Lindy Ruff, which what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? It is as if nobody listened to this podcast where we talked about the fact that Keandre Miller was going to get the Carolina Hurricane bump. Like, I sometimes, guys, it's okay to just take a pass on some of these thoughts. You can just not say the things that you're thinking in your head. It's okay. John Tortorella, the coach that the New York Rangers got, was not the coach that the Tampa Bay Lightning got when they won the Stanley Cup. The safe as death John Tortorella that won the Stanley Cup in 2004, that guy was literally the antithesis of that guy was the coach of the New York Rangers. And I tell this story all the time. I was fucking walking Mike Sullivan out the door when John Tortorella was fired, happily kicking his ass out and then begging for him to come back to the New York Rangers last year. So, like, things change, people change, situations change. It just kind of is what it is. It's okay. You don't always have to have like this grand idea of like, oh my God, Tortorella's going to the Eastern Conference or to the Stanley Cup Final, and but it just it's not. It's okay. It's all right. Keandre Miller would not have been doing these things, and I don't even think he's been particularly that good for Carolina in the playoffs. It's okay, guys. I promise. It's all right. You can relax. The Rangers still suck. It's going to be okay.
It's a bit in the rearview mirror now, but what was that word? Antithesis?
Yeah. The antithesis.
Antithesis?
Antithesis? Sure, whatever. It's the same thing.
You're the one talking about pronunciations, and you're throwing out antithesis, which is just not even close to the pronunciation of that word.
Wolf is a word that my 3-year-old daughter can say.
Congratulations for her. Nobody fucking cares about your 3-year-old daughter.
Well, she can say wolf, so you should be able to say wolf. Either way, I love John Tortorella. I'm glad he's in the league. No matter what happens, I mean, I guess if they blow a 3-0 lead, they may have a conversation about not bringing him back. I don't see
I
how
would think
he's not
so,
the
yeah.
coach of Vegas
That would be
next year.
blowing a 3-0 lead is the antithesis of what they want to have happen.
So I think Tortorella's back. I love it. I mean, also perfect position for him. Like, he doesn't give a shit. He'll take the interim job and just what does it matter? Doesn't matter to him whether he gets who cares? But coming in with 8 games left and doing this, very, very, very impressive. Like
John
peak John
Tortorella hoisting the Stanley Cup after coaching 8 regular season games in the playoffs as an interim head coach would just be too good of a story. I want it to happen. It's too good of a story. If I may say, it's the antithesis of a bad story.
I cannot say enough good things about John Tortorella, and I've always enjoyed Tortorella. I think he's amazing for the game. Just not with my hockey team, but I don't know. But again, maybe he learns, and we're having this conversation 5 years from now, and whatever. But yeah, I love me some John Tortorella. Very happy to see him doing the things that he's doing right now. No notes for what's going on in Vegas right now, and to come back from 3-0 in Game 3, where Colorado was putting on everybody stop talking about us. We're here. This is the team that we've always been. Here's another thing where we're talking about this revisionist history. Brett Howden, I don't fucking care. I'm sorry. I just don't give a shit. Woohoo. He scored 7 goals in the playoffs. Congratulations. 10. He's playing on a loaded fucking hockey team. You know where he wouldn't be doing this shit? With the fucking Rangers. I looked up his stats because I was curious if he was doing something special in the regular season. He's not. It's fine.
No, he's going on one of these runs that players often go on in the playoffs where a guy who, look, the worst
Tortorella,
example.
Was it Fedotenko who had the 12 goals in the playoffs for Tampa Bay?
I think that's Ruslan Fedotenko, yeah. The quintessential example of this to me was Brian Bickle of the Chicago Blackhawks, who went on a crazy run in the playoffs and then got inked to an absolutely terrible contract that, again, because they paid him for his playoff overperformance. And it was one of the deals that all together led to the Chicago Blackhawks having to sell Artemi Panarin for pennies on the dollar because they couldn't afford to sign him and didn't want to lose him for absolutely nothing. So, yeah, I'm happy for Brett Howden. You're right. His season this year, he played in 58 games, scored 12 goals, 10 assists for 22 points. This is just a guy on an absolute heater in the playoffs. This happens occasionally. This is not to say he's not a good hockey player. This is not to say that he wouldn't be a useful hockey player for the Rangers if he were still on the Rangers. I think it is worth remembering that Brett Howden did get forced into some situations that were not ideal at his point of development. Common story with the Rangers. But that this is all great. I'm very happy for him. But to suggest that, he was this just absolute barn burner of a playoff performer waiting to happen, that this was inevitable, that the Rangers made a mistake here. You can make that mistake argument up to a point. That poor development, it's a very familiar story. We've certainly heard it plenty of times. But this is an outlier, right? This is a black swan event more than anything else. So there's no need to over extrapolate from.
Yeah, I get it. There's not a lot of things to talk about right now. The Rangers suck. Everybody's miserable.
Yeah,
I understand. I really do. I get it. It's okay sometimes to just not have those thoughts come out. And it's not even ironic. Listen, again, Howden, we were fucking kicking his ass out the door. It kind of makes sense that he's playing better hockey on a much, much, much better hockey team. And to the point that you just made, doesn't really seem like it was happening in the regular season. He's having a hell of a playoffs. Congratulations. Good for him.
Yeah,
Anyway,
good for him.
let's talk about other things that make me angry. Eric, I said this to you in the green room before we started. The more I think about this, the more sick I get that the Rangers dropped 2 spots in the draft because it certainly seems like the New York Rangers are going to probably fall out of the opportunity to get one of the top 2 forwards that we were talking about before the draft because it appears that Caleb Malhotra may actually be taken second or the first forward not named Gavin McKenna taken off the board by Vancouver. I don't know.
Well, that would be third, right? So, like, you still got San
Correct.
Jose in there too. So,
Well, everyone's
if
thinking they're taking Reed. So it's right now the way the mocks are looking is Toronto's going to take McKenna, San Jose is going to take Reed, and then Vancouver's going to skip Stenberg to take Malhotra. So
I look, there are plenty of people who know more about the draft and prospects than I do. That seems insane to me. Like, everything that we have been told and that I have seen too, especially watching highlights from the Worlds about Stenberg, suggests to me that this probably is one of the top 2 talents in the draft. And if San Jose possesses the number 2 pick and is just going to take a defenseman because of pure positional need, I think that that's idiotic and insane on their part. Trade down with somebody else who wants to take Stenberg, get some assets from them, and then take Chase Reed at 4th if you're trading with the Blackhawks, or 5th if you're trading with the Rangers, because you can get that guy a couple picks down and you can pry another asset out of the team in order to do it. Vancouver, I think Vancouver's fucking stupid. It would not surprise me. And again, I don't think it's stupid in the sense that Caleb Malhotra is a good pick there, but if Stenberg falls to them, like, I'm sorry to Manny Malhotra, but you got to take Stenberg at 3rd overall then. Like, I don't know how the consensus seems to be that this second best talent in the draft is going to fall as far as 4th because of a case of positional need and then a case of, frankly, pseudo-nepotism.
well, what the Sedins have decided to do so far in Vancouver has been, again, chef's kiss. No notes. Absolutely brilliant. I I don't know. It would
Sorry, can I back up to your initial point, which is you're sick that they fall into 5th? I'm not. Like, I don't think that I am. The Rangers have too many needs for me to be hung up on the fact that they're not going to get a forward. They need defense as well. And there are going to be valuable players available to them at defense at 5. So I'm not sick about it. Like, yes, I would love Stenberg or Malhotra. That would be absolutely phenomenal. But they have needs in all positions on the ice.
fair, and we've made that point. You and I made that point 2 weeks ago that the Rangers are not in a position to be picky. They have to take what they can get. The fact that the draft is playing out here where it looks like Stenberg is going to fall to Chicago at 4, where the Rangers
I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
I don't know what you've seen from Vancouver that would lead you to believe they're not taking Caleb Malhotra.
I don't know what
Simply because it's the wrong decision should lead you down the path that
I
that
can
is what
believe
they are
again.
going to do.
I can believe the Vancouver part of this more than I can believe that San Jose doesn't understand that you're either taking Stenberg at 2 or you trade with somebody in order to get another asset and let them then take Stenberg.
Well, this returns back to
San Jose is smarter than Vancouver is. That's where I'm
Yes,
investing my faith here.
Then I'll agree with that and return back to there has to be a deal somewhere that makes sense
Agreed.
between the Rangers and San Jose here.
Or Chicago and San Jose.
Or
right?
Chicago
I mean,
and San Jose.
If I'm Mike Greer, I am telegraphing to any of those teams in conversations where it's like, look, obviously greater positional need for us as a defenseman, but a guy that talented, a guy that good, like, there're going to be opportunity to get defensemen in other places and in other ways. We can make trades for different guys. We're taking Stenberg at 2 unless you're going to make a trade with me here. I don't know why you wouldn't be doing that. He seems smart enough to do that. Well, Joe, this is the National Hockey League, and to know what he's doing would necessitate having reporters who actually do reporting. And we know one thing about the NHL is that there aren't reporters who do reporting. There aren't
Fair.
insiders that tell us what's happening
Boy,
on the inside. So I don't know how
you're
you
in
would
a
know that.
you're in a mood today. I don't understand. I don't understand what's happening with you. You drinking your fucking hotel water. You're all pissed off. Look, I am going to continue to bang the drum that it would astound me if Chris Drury and his college roommate are not having conversations with one another.
100%.
I saw somebody from San Jose fan who was like, "Yeah, send us Fox in the fifth, and we'll send you the second overall pick." And it's like, bitch, I don't,
That's
I
insane.
couldn't actually think of a stupider trade than the one that you have just suggested. Like at that point, just ask for say Fox and Shesterkin for the fifth overall or the second overall, and maybe like what are you doing now? The chip trade with Fox, I would obviously do. You and I
Yeah,
talked about
agreed.
that, but
Yeah, we talked about that.
I think to the put a finer point on it, there is no bad outcome for the New York Rangers at 5. I have spoken to plenty of people who actually think Carl's is the best defenseman in the draft. So this love affair for Reed that these teams seem to have, every mock appears to have Reed going second overall to San Jose. Perfectly fine. Let that happen. But it seems like Carl's is kind of the name that's sliding under the radar here. Feels like he's going to be the guy that falls to the Rangers if everything plays out the way that it's going to. We've
And
talked about
great.
this as well. The New York Ranger or the NHL draft never really goes according to plan. Now the Rangers are higher up on the board here, so not crazy things can happen or usually happen. But I don't know. I think part of where I am concerned, if you will, I'm still trying to figure out what the Rangers think they're going to be. And I don't have a really good answer for that question. I'm hoping Chris Drury has a really good answer for that question. We'll move over to Trocheck here, who just, again, another circumstance where I have to nail this, don't have a choice. And there's reason to believe, as we have been saying for months, that Vincent Trocheck is the biggest asset out there in the NHL. It looks like the Sabres and Alex Tuch are
Tuck.
closing in on a deal. I think he wants $11 million. The Sabres are somewhere around 9. I think they're a little under 10, but they're close enough that ship probably gets worked out. Always
Mhm.
good to do something like that after a really nice playoff run for a team.
Real quick. I just want to put a note in here for Charlie. I now need a running count of everything that Joe mispronounces in the podcast. So we have had antithesis and we have had touch. And this is good. This is good. Please keep talking about pronunciations, Joe. Please keep doing that.
So I guess and I don't even know how interested teams would be for him. I guess if
For
somebody's
Tuck,
begging for some type of talent because they need to do something that kind of changes the chemistry or they're just looking for another piece, but you're talking about signing a 30-year-old player to an $8 million deal in like
you think
I
it's going
don't
to be
even
$8
have a
million if he goes on the open market?
I don't even have a comparison. Like what's I
I think it's
can't
going to
even
be
say
more.
Jack Hughes money because Jack Hughes isn't making that kind of money.
If Tuck is really going to go on the open market, like if he's not going to re-sign in Buffalo, and I think there's a reason for him based on he's from New York, wanting to give a friendly deal to the Buffalo Sabres, he is the only major forward that is going to be available on the free agent market. He could get 8 figures or 7 figures, excuse me. I see no reason why he couldn't be getting 10, $11 million. Somebody is going to pay wild like that because it's going to be so few other assets available to even take a swing at.
Buffalo is right under that mark now. So you're correct. On the open market, that number is only going higher because you would think he's asking Buffalo. I believe I saw a report today. He's asking Buffalo for $11 million. That's the hometown discount to Buffalo. And listen, good for him. He's in an environment where, like, this was probably not even in his wildest dreams to be making this kind of money 2 years ago. He's actually going to command that type of a salary. We're talking Igor Shesterkin money, to be clear, at $11 million. So Yeah, again, I understand where he's coming from, and he's got to secure the bag. And by all means, if you don't feel like paying a guy that type of money, say hello to Vincent Trocheck. And I think the
Mhm.
teams that have been rumored to have been in conversation, we've heard about Toronto. We have obviously known about Minnesota. Detroit was on that list.
Mhm.
Seems like we're yeah, I think some of Chip's ideas about what the Devils, which I don't remember if we were talking about that in our group chat or if that was something that he projected onto the
Yeah,
podcast last week. I don't think so.
he floated that in our group text, and I don't
I
like.
just don't see it
I don't
either.
think it makes.
There's too
Well,
much evidence that that's not going to happen.
it was also based around Simon Nemec, and one, the report that he asked for a trade was almost immediately contradicted. So there's nothing even to suggest that he's somebody that the Devils are looking to move. And also, I don't know if Chip is aware of this, but he is not good. Like, he has shown absolutely nothing in his admittedly limited NHL experience, but he has shown absolutely nothing to suggest that he is a good hockey player yet. So the idea of centering a trade for Vincent Trocheck around, again, a defenseman who has shown nothing in the National Hockey League is bat crap crazy.
Yeah, and the Rangers are in a position here where you would again, Vincent Trocheck, contract aside, has to be one of the most desirable pieces on the market this year. Unless it comes out that Colorado's going to trade McKinnon, you know what I mean, because of this disastrous playoff run, which is not going to
Which they
happen.
aren't.
You're talking about it's Vincent Trocheck or bust. Now, if I'm Minnesota, I am relatively concerned about the fact that Quinn Hughes is not signed yet. Not that they've had any substantial discussions from what we know, to back to Eric's point. You don't necessarily get a ton of reporting, like inside reporting from the NHL. But if I'm Bill Guerin, I'm very concerned that I've traded the farm. I couldn't beat Colorado. Colorado can't beat Vegas. What I got my ass handed to me on the penalty kill. What do I do? Well, maybe you trade for Vincent Trocheck. And there was, I think I saw a report that like maybe Yurov is potentially back on the table or something. Either way, the Rangers need to get this right. And
Just
somebody asked
just
me,
to
like,
note, real quick. Again, they can't sign Quinn Hughes until July 1.
okay, I brought that up on the podcast last week. I wasn't sure. It's
And that was
July,
in
not
the
January,
Ombudsman
correct?
report. That was in the Ombudsman report that his contract expires after this coming season. So it is July 1 of the preceding the season where your contract expires. So he is
Which
not
is
eligible to
basically a
sign
month
an
from now.
extension until a month from now.
But they can talk to him about it today
Sure,
because he's on the team.
I think that that's correct. I'm not an expert on the CBA,
I can't
but
imagine
I
they wouldn't be
imagine that
allowed to.
sure, but like just to the point, there is no deal because they literally cannot sign him to one.
Totally fair. And again, the amount of explosive panic that came out of Minnesota that Kaprizov is not a $17 million player and they have him signed up long term. They just traded the farm for Quinn Hughes. Hughes can look around and be like, you know what? I'm going to test the market. What's the point of signing here? Like, look, I get it. I understand. There are a lot of emotions that come out of a hurtful playoff losses, right? We're having conversations about Brett Howden, John Tortorella, the whole
Yeah.
gang back together, and the Rangers aren't even in the playoffs. So I understand where it's coming from. But I do think that Chris Drury has, again, made a bet that paid off by not trading Vincent Trocheck to the lowest common denominator at the trade deadline. Now has an opportunity to take advantage of a market where potentially the one big piece that may even be out there is going to be off the board by the time July 1st comes around. Who isn't going to be interested in Vincent Trocheck that wants to shake their team up? But somebody was asking me in the comments today, at what time do you see the Rangers getting, like, are they 5+ years away? I think even if Chris Drury nails every piece of this offseason, they're at least 3 years away. At least.
Yeah. Look, I can go back to the 2021-22 season and thinking I did not, coming into that season, based on the way that the Rangers were retooling, rebuilding, thinking that that was a team that was going to be making any kind of noise in the playoffs. And that was a team that arrived much earlier than we thought that they were going to. I think these things are a little bit more flexible than people want to give them credit for. I think like, if he nails absolutely everything, their 3 years is they're still more than 3 years away. I think that's a little more doomsdayist than is necessary. I don't know that I would bet on in 3 years that what is the mark in 3 years from now? Just making the playoffs? Is it
No,
winning
no,
a
no, no, no.
round
Like
or two?
true contention, like getting to the Eastern Conference Final.
I mean, again, that 21-22 season, I had no expectations that that was a team that was going to get to an Eastern Conference Final, and that was a team that got to an Eastern Conference Final and got within 2 wins of a Stanley Cup Final. So I lean into the unpredictability of this a little bit more than I think you're leaning into it. But it will require making a lot of the right moves and having the guys that they draft pan out and guys develop well. So there's a lot of question marks there. But I think the timeline you're suggesting there is a little bit too hardline and doomsdayist for my taste. I think we have seen plenty of examples of teams arriving earlier than we thought that they were going.
I mean, all the power to them, by all means. Yeah, I we've talked enough about Trocheck. We've talked enough about the draft. I just as we get closer to July 1st, more and more information is coming out about the fact that Vincent Trocheck is just this hot commodity on the market, and as more names remove themselves from contention from the free agency market, it's going to be the way that this plays out. And if you're Chris Drury, you're rooting for this to drag out as long as it possibly can, to have everybody kind of figure things out and get sorted, and to have nobody sit, in free agency. Then it's basically just Trocheck. Now we're doing a grand disservice to Johnny Brodzinski, who may legitimately be a top 5 forward on the free agency market this year. It's that barren.
Yeah,
So good for you,
pretty
Johnny. You're
bad.
probably going to get the bag, but
Good for him.
you know, there is one piece of bigger news that we didn't talk about that we should probably at least talk about a little bit, which is the New York Rangers seem to be separating the Rangers, or excuse me, Madison Square Garden Holdings, is going to separate the Knicks and the Rangers from one another to be two separate entities. This was reported that they were having these conversations, I think like 4 months ago. We really didn't talk about it on the podcast. There's very little to talk about right here. Nothing has happened yet. I think it went to a board vote and they've agreed to do this. Just in layman's terms, right now the Rangers and the Knicks are one entity. They are separating them so that they are separate from one another. They'll still fall under the ownership of James Dolan right now. The argument from the MSG side is it makes it easier for there to be other investors to come in, meaning people buying pieces of the team, or the teams to be sold outright if needed. My gut, and I have no inside information on this, is James Dolan won't own the Rangers in 5 years. That's just my gut. Because I'm not sure why else you would do all of this, but that's all. Just can't not mention it. It is big time Rangers news. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. It's not confirmed yet. They haven't, that it hasn't happened yet. I think they still have to go through some approvals, and really at this point, it's being framed that they're just sort of exploring the possibility of doing this. But just if you're seeing about it and you're panicking, there's nothing to panic about right now. It's just relax. All right. What else did we have outside of
There's
questions?
one other major topic, and we can also bridge into questions and get to that topic because we have one from Chris.
Go ahead.
So we'll do that.
Sure.
From our own Chris Feldman. May we take a moment to appreciate the New York Knicks. Never cared much for basketball, but got into them more when they got back into the playoffs in 2023. This core has been fun to watch and root for. They will get the job. Will they get the job done? And do you think New York would go as crazy next time for the Rangers get that far? So we've talked about this before. I'm not an NBA guy. I don't know a hell of a lot about NBA basketball. I do watch some college basketball. I have been, as I watched last year, I watched the Knicks playoff run. So bandwagon the hell out of that. And I've been bandwagoning the hell out of the Knicks playoff run this year, mostly because of my son, who has gotten super into the Knicks with this playoff run. This 11 games that the Knicks have been on, the 11 games that they have won after losing, what was it, game 2 of their opening round series against Atlanta, is the best 11 games that any team has played, I believe, in the history of the NBA by, I think, point differential. It is
I think, what are they,
insane.
plus 260 or something?
223 or something like that. It's like better. The thing that stuck out to me in the graph that I saw was it was better than the 97, I believe, Chicago Bulls, which is, to me, just bonkers. Look, again, it has been incredibly fun to watch. We are generally pro analytic people when it comes to hockey, at least. The quote from the coach of Cleveland that, like, after the first 2 or 3 games that, like, they'd 3 games, they'd analytically won 2 of them. I have no idea what the fuck he is talking about in that. And James Harden saying post game 4 that he felt that they were the better team. My friend Joe was trying to come up with a baseball analogy for it. It was like, so you have the combination of notorious playoff choker and a team that got their ass handed to them. And the best that we could come up with was Clayton Kershaw saying after the 2018 World Series that he really thought that the Dodgers were better than the Red Sox. And the Dodgers won a game in that
Wait,
series. And at least
there's a
one other
hockey
game
one.
was close. What is that?
There's a hockey one. There was Brindamore saying after he got swept, we didn't get swept. I know it says we lost.
Oh, that's right.
That is literally.
That's right. I forgot about that
version of this.
Yeah,
where it was like, yeah, you got swept, bro. Like, you analytically won 2 of the games. Congratulations.
Yeah.
We didn't get
Raise
swept,
the banner,
even though it says we got swept. Yeah, because you got fucking swept.
Yeah.
That is literally the hockey version. That is it. That's the comparable.
Yeah, you're right. I totally forgotten about
was
that.
The stupidest comment. Actually, I still think the Brindamore comment is stupider. Just because, like, you did get swept. What do you mean you didn't get swept? You were swept.
I mean, look, there is a case that one could make for a team getting swept and, like, losing 3 of the 4 games in overtime. And, like, honestly, like, say the Carolina Hurricanes got swept by Montreal with this bullshit that Montreal is doing where they're registering like 12 shots on goal in a game. Like, again, for all of you people who had been absolutely filleting Jeff Gorton, like, I'm very happy for Marty St. Louis and Montreal for this run that they have gone on. But that is absolutely a team built by the same guy who built that New York Ranger team, because they are getting bombed in shots on a regular basis and occasionally eking out a win in ways that you just go, there's no reason this team should have won that game. But it would be like Carolina getting swept, out shooting Montreal 40-12 in every game and losing 3 of the 4 games in overtime and the other 1-0. You could make the case that Carolina was still the better team, and it's just the way those 4 games shook out. This was closer to what Howden said. The analytically 1-2 games or whatever is just absolutely insane. You're right. The Brindamore comment I'd forgotten about, and that's the absolute comparison there. No, yeah, going back to the Knicks, though, this is incredibly fun. To Chris's question, do I think that they'll get the job done? The only thing I guess I'm mildly worried about is now they're going to sit around for a bit while San Antonio and Oklahoma City figure out the West. And with the way that they're playing, I imagine they want to be playing again tomorrow night. So that's the one little thing that concerns me. But
they
man,
they
look
out of
absolutely
each other, though, for 7 games.
They could, true. This team Knicks team looks absolutely unstoppable right now. And the reality is that New York fundamentally is a basketball town. So while yes, I mean, there would be a rally around the Rangers. It would be to a much lesser extent a Rangers championship. If the Knicks win a Stanley Cup, or if the Knicks win a championship, it'll be bigger than the Rangers winning a Stanley Cup for sure. It's just a bigger deal than the Rangers are. And yeah, I accept that reality about the team that I love the most, that it is the one of the lesser important sports in the city. But it still would be a big deal. It would be a big deal to me. But New York will explode. The photo of the cops that were all lined up in front of Radio City Music Hall that looks like The Dark Knight Rises, where they're all going to go down into the tunnels under Gotham City to find Bane. That city is going to go crazy if the Knicks win a championship.
Yeah, it's almost an unfair comparison because the Knicks fans are so depraved of a championship. Remember, the Rangers last won in '94. The Knicks last won in what?
Deprived?
No, like
Did you
isn't
mean
it depravity?
deprived?
No, not deprived.
No,
Like
being
they're
depraved is
depraved
being
human
like,
beings.
that's an
They're
interesting
like
use of that, but
they are
okay.
animals. Like I've been to 3 Knick games in my entire life. All 3 of them were playoff games. The past 2 were second round games against Indiana that they won. I went to game 2
Two.
of the Eastern Conference Final this year. And every time the Knicks have won, the fans have been like in the streets, just completely blocking traffic. They're like animals. And I mean that in a complimentary way. Like they're just depraved human beings. I don't know how else to describe them. I really don't. There is a level of hunger and the Knicks have been so fucking bad. Like we think imagine what the Rangers have gone through the last 2 years for like decades with the Knicks. So there's a different level of hunger to them that there's no way the Rangers could compare at all. And the hockey is, by the way, the lowest of the 4 sports. It just kind of is what it is. Now,
What is
I think there's an argument to be
it?
made,
Is
and I'm going to make this argument. It's going to make a lot of people mad. This is not a please like my sport. I feel like the Garden was louder in the Eastern Conference Finals for the Rangers than it was last week for me with the Knicks. Just a personal thing. I also think there's something to be said for the fact that there are really no fair weather hockey fans. It's like not cool to be a hockey fan. You know what I mean? So like you're getting a more authentic crowd, I guess I would say. Not that like it was bullshit at the Knicks game. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying that it was like this boring, like the Garden was genuinely loud. I was excited to go to experience the Garden again like I did in 2023 when Barclay Goodrow scored that overtime winning goal. Like I again, I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
it was just I don't know, it was louder. It just is what it is. And that's my personal opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me make
There's
it
also a
clear.
question of who's at those games too. Did you see that there are seats listed like 4 or 5 rows off the court for game 3 for almost $1.1 million for a
Oh,
single ticket?
no.
You can get a modern 4-bedroom home in Oklahoma City for the cost of a single ticket to game 3 of the NBA final at Madison Square
I
Garden.
remember when the Rangers went to the Stanley Cup in 2014, there were tickets on sale for like $40,000 right around the glass. So a little bit less, obviously, than the $1.1 million. Whoever buys that ticket, good for you. Congratulations, I guess. Congrats on the money. I just, it is it's better when the Rangers and the Knicks are good together. I am not a basketball guy, as I've made clear on this podcast before. I am absolutely rooting for the New York Knicks. It is incredible to see. Absolutely have to give flowers to Leon Rose and James Dolan, by the way, for like this idea of basically putting a super agent in charge of your basketball team is like a model that kind
Well,
of should be
let's go
followed.
to let's go to Chip's question here, because we got a question that we got 2 more Nick related questions, so we might as well pick them up while we're talking about the Knicks here. Chip's question: do we think that the run the Knicks are on takes pressure off Drury from James Dolan, or is he looking at the Knicks, looking at the playoff revenue that they're bringing in, and saying, "Fuck, I want the Rangers doing this too"? and puts more pressure on Drury to have the team contending by 26-27. Also, does the success of the duo of Leon Rose and Worldwide West, two guys who were brought in to run the Knicks from creative artists, inspire Dolan to hire someone from outside normal NHL circles to work with Drury, either as a GM under him or as an advisor?
So the first question, the answer is no. If anything, the Knicks being this good and bringing in this revenue is actually buying the Rangers time, because I just don't think I don't think Dolan cares right now. I think the only thing he gives a shit right now about is the Knicks, and that's fine. Totally cool. The problem with the second question is I don't disagree. And I think Eric and I have moved far beyond the realm where we were at before of like defending Chris Drury, that it would make a lot more sense for the Rangers. Like Brisson would be the guy, right? Just comparably that you would bring over and just see what you could do with him and have him come in. Fine. The problem is the way that James Dolan operates. He's not going to. He trusts Chris Drury. Now that may change. Okay, it's not changing today. It's not changing tomorrow. It's not changing in the next couple of years. But that may change. It, you couldn't bring somebody in under Chris Drury is the problem, because Chris Drury is still the guy at that point. If you're going to do that, you are replacing Chris Drury with someone.
Mhm.
So you could put someone over Chris Drury, but then you may as well fire Chris Drury, because then you're just paying Chris Drury to be, you know what I mean? So like, yes, I do agree that there is a strand of logic here that you can pull at and just say, hey, it makes a lot of sense for the Rangers to maybe walk down this road. It's obviously worked for the Knicks. I mean, again, Leon Rose has turned that team that was a unbelievable laughingstock into an just a powerhouse basketball team that is now in the NBA Finals for the first time since 95, right?
99.
Or 99, the Knicks made it. So I just but it could only happen if he fires Chris Drury, and we have been given overwhelming amounts of evidence that that is not happening. So, at least not anytime soon. Yeah, so yes, I agree, it's something that should be explored. It will not be explored, at least not in the near future.
Not anytime soon. So, like, I agree with you that, like, the inevitability that it's inevitable that Chris Drury is going to be fired. All GMs are eventually fired. So the question is, this would play back in the conversation you had about, the splitting the entity that owns the Rangers and the Knicks. If it leads to Dolan no longer being the owner, well, it's a completely different set of circumstances now. That may be the end for Chris Drury as well, if he's still around there when that happens and a new owner takes over. The interesting question is, does it, cause someone to think outside of the box and hire like a former player agent? It's possible, but again, I think your key point there is that it's not happening anytime soon, no matter what. So that's
I
my answer.
also wanna make it clear, basketball is fundamentally different from hockey. There are way, way less basketball players, professional basketball players in the NBA than there are in the NHL. It is much easier for a super agent like Leon Rose to have connections that basically expand all across the NBA. And we've had these conversations before about how, you see these like super teams that are built and these other it you can't. Yes, Connor McDavid would make the New York Rangers significantly better. It would not be the same thing as adding like, you put Victor Wembanyama on a team, that team is a playoff team immediately, and then maybe a finals team. You know what I mean? With, like, a couple of
There are
tweaks.
fewer right. There are fewer superstar players that you need because you have generally like five guys who play the majority of the game themselves. But also the point that you have not made yet that maybe you were getting to is it's also just a league where players actually move around. And that's just
Correct.
not something that happens in the National Hockey League. So like it's very difficult to make comparisons between the two other than, people joke about like comparing apples and oranges as if those two things are wildly different. I mean, it's not like comparing apples to Buicks, right? Like there's wild differences between those two things. Apples and oranges actually have a whole hell of a lot in common. Hockey and basketball at the professional level have a lot in common in that they're major businesses, they're professional sports. There's a bunch of things they have in common. There are significant differences that exist between them two that define them. And a lot of the stuff that you're talking about in the NBA is what makes it different and why trying to talk about the NHL in the same light just really doesn't work.
Right, and by the way, that's not an attack on Leon Rose at all. He's done. It's just it's a you even if
It's a
Brisson
different
came
kind of
over.
challenge.
Yes, if he came over to the Rangers now, it's just it would not be the same. You'd not have the level of power just because of the way the two leagues are just architect. It's just different, and yeah, I look, I like the idea behind it. I think it's outside the box. I also fully agree with you that if somebody bought the Rangers tomorrow, which again, we're not saying is gonna happen, Chris Drury's gonna be immediately fired. Like there's
I
some
would
a
imagine.
vision there that he's somehow, gotten James Dolan to buy into. Great. We're gonna see that play out. If like Steve Cohen bought the Rangers tomorrow, he's not fucking keeping Chris Drury. What is he keeping Chris Drury around for?
I don't know. He seems to like terrible general managers, so
See, are the Mets bad this year? Like, I don't know
they're
anything about
atrocious.
baseball. They're bad.
They're
Okay, good.
horrible. Yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
have no.
which, like, for the most part, I nothing the Mets, but, like, Mets fans in particular, and there's such overlap between Rangers and Mets fans. The delusion level that Mets fans come into and the shit talk that comes from them, just makes when they end up being this bad still somewhat enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm again not a baseball guy. Are the Yankees good this year?
The Yankees are good-ish, but they're already, they're winning 13-1 right now in Kansas City, but they beat the crap out of the AL Central every year. They entered their June swoon in mid-May this time. Every year is the same with them, which is they get off to an incredibly hot start. They have a swoon. They come out of the All-Star break either good or ramping up to good. They make the playoffs and they lose in the divisional level. That's basically the Yankee season every year under Aaron Boone and this current management.
Welcome to Blueshirt Bandwidth, where Joe learns about other sports teams in New York in real time.
Two more
Drag him
Knicks-related
out here.
questions here. Um, most of us remember from State of Hockey. Most of us remember the Rangers winning the Cup in '94 after 54 years. Probably one of, if not the greatest moment in New York sports history. That being said, it's been 53 years since the last Knicks championship. Do you think a 2026 champion Knicks team will have as much significance as the '94 Rangers? Disclaimer, I moved from New York several years ago and have no idea what the sports temperature is there anymore, nor am I a basketball guy. The answer is it will have way more significance than the '94 Rangers, if not just because it's almost about the same amount of drought, but again, it's basketball is just such a bigger deal, and it is the only uniting sport really in New York because, yes, the Brooklyn Nets exist and nobody cares, but there's baseball fandom is torn between the Yankees and the Mets. Hockey fandom is torn between the Rangers and the Islanders and the Devils. Football fandom is torn between the Giants and the Jets. And really, it's just the Knicks. So again, I'm not going to do a please like my sport thing, even though I generally don't have problems with people trying to tell other people to like the sport that they like. I have never in my life understood that as a line of attack on people talking about the sport that they like. I just find it to be a weird thing that people pick on. Um, but basketball is just such a bigger deal. It'll have way more significance than the '94 Rangers.
Yeah, it's even within it's bigger nationally. So
Yeah,
basketball is a bigger sport than hockey is nationally. So yes, it's going to be a bigger deal. I agree with you. I think look, I do not remember 94. I was 6 when the Rangers won the Stanley Cup in 94. I've very limited. I've talked about this before. I have no idea what the city was like. The other thing that you guys need to remember is Manhattan is like sports central. So there are people, even the people who hate hockey and mock, like, oh, no one cares about the Rangers. Like the Rangers have a bigger fandom than, NFL team. You know what I mean? They have in other markets. It's just different. There's so many people smacked together in Manhattan. And when the Rangers and the Knicks are good at the same time. It's really fucking
Yeah, that's
cool. The
crazy.
Garden is
Yeah.
awesome. It's amazing. I'm sure 94 was wild and insane. I've seen commentary that the Rangers died so the Knicks can live. Congratulations. Like, don't squander this opportunity. Many of us are suffering here for it. It's going to be bigger because basketball is bigger. And now, in the reverse, I would actually make the argument that I think it would be bigger than like the Giants winning the Super Bowl next year. Again, because of the length of time that's passed between when they last won and just how just depraved these people. I can't even think of a range. I remember what happened when the Rangers won Game 6 to go to the Stanley Cup Final. We were outside. Everybody was going crazy, but we were like on the sidewalks respectfully. Like we weren't in the middle of the street. It was literally like you walked into a simulation and nobody cared about just civility. It was just wild. And it's happened every time I've been to a Knicks playoff game. Every time this has happened. And I remember saying to my buddy, like, who is a huge Knicks fan, what is this? And he's like, yeah, dude, we don't win playoff games. And it's like, oh, okay. So this is what happens.
The
Yes,
only
it'll be
thing I
bigger.
can think of, that might be potentially more explosive is if somehow the Jets won a Super Bowl. And I mean
Correct.
explosive in the sense that I pretty sure the world would explode if the Jets actually won a Super Bowl.
What about the Jets
So,
beating the Giants
yeah,
in the Super Bowl?
that'd
Which
be
is a possible, or
bonkers.
you know what? It's very interesting. Very interesting.
You
But yes,
you you mentioned that you don't remember 94, which actually dovetails well into the final Knicks related question that we have from Chip. If the Knicks win a title, rank the number 11s in terms of what they mean to New York City. Jalen Brunson, Mark Messier, and Phil Simms. And Chip adds, for what it's worth, I think that's the order simply given how much the Knicks mean to New York City. So here's what I'm going to say. Two things. That order is correct. If the Knicks win a championship, the order is correct. Brunson, Messier, Simms. The slander around Mark Messier that I have seen from some quarters, from people who are obvious to me too young to remember anything about that championship, is ridiculous. You people have no fucking clue what you're talking about, and you should shut your mouths. Mark Messier was incredibly important to that Rangers team. I'm sorry if you're unimpressed for some reason with the hat trick that he scored in Game 6 against the Devils, which is another weird, bizarro take that I see out there that, again, I don't quite understand. That is the kind of thing that I think can only be viewed with the luxury of talking about it decades after it happened and not having actually lived through it. I think the Messier slander has been bonkers. Messier being traded to the Rangers was a monumental thing for that franchise. And even at the time, there were some people wondering, like, oh, are we getting the guy too late yet again? Even though Messier had won those 4 cups with Wayne Gretzky in Edmonton, and then after Gretzky was traded, won another cup with those Edmonton Oilers. So the order that Chip listed him in is correct. Brunson, Messier, Simms. But the way some people have talked about Mark Messier that I have seen is just absolutely unadulteratedly ignorant, and y'all should stop.
I agree that the list is correct with the understanding that basketball is bigger than hockey. But if you take it in a vacuum, I think Messier, if for nothing else, the calling Game 6 against the Devils in the Eastern Conference Final, when the Rangers were seemingly dead in the water in that series, and then scoring a hat trick in that game, is baller shit that, like, Jalen Brunson has not needed to touch because the Knicks really haven't been in that circumstance. I agree with you that I think Brunson choosing the Knicks and coming here willingly, Granted, he was given obviously a fair amount of money. He's taken various pay cuts to stay with the New York Knicks, whereas Messier got into a spat with the New York Rangers and then went to Vancouver. I'm sort of talking myself out of my comment here. I'm going to backtrack. I agree. It's Brunson, Messier, um, and Sims.
Sims.
I don't
The
even like Sims.
caveat is just that the Knicks have not won the championship yet, and that
Correct.
obviously needs to happen. But I would say that it's now right now Messier, Sims, and again Brunson has not won a title yet. But if the Knicks win, then it is Brunson. But like again, the Messier slander is so ridiculous.
I've not seen the Messier slander. Is it happening?
Yeah, it is
What are
out there.
people saying?
Yeah, it was in my rant earlier that it was like that his performance in the playoffs wasn't as impressive. That like the game 6
Oh,
is
I didn't
apparently
realize
not as
that was
impressive
actually
to
like
people.
a quote. I thought you were just like
No, I'm not making stuff up. I'm
not
saying things
making
that
stuff up.
actually
I thought
exist
you were
out
like
there.
I again who. So here's the deal: if you didn't live through '94, and I like half lived through '94, but I watched that DVD. DVDs didn't exist back then. I watched that
VHS.
VHS tape until it fucking wore out. So I feel like I can literally remember every minute of that playoff series, that
Me too.
entire,
Yeah,
year. Messier, the other thing I don't think people recognize is the type of transformative leader Messier was for that team.
agreed.
We're still talking about the type of things that Messier did in that locker room and just the respect that he put on the name of the jersey and the logo and just you're absolutely
It was a
correct.
It was a mentality reset too. It was a guy coming in who this was very similar actually to what Joe Madden did with the 2016 well, it was 2015 I think when he came in with the Chicago Cubs, which was to say for a team that everybody knew was cursed, right? That was afraid to talk about the idea of winning a championship. It was like, no, we're going to talk about it because it's the goal. It was an entire mentality reset for the team, for the franchise. And like to a certain extent, I feel bad kind of beating up on some of those people here because I think it generally is ignorance. They're just again, they're not old enough to have lived through any of that or to really know what it was like. Or in my specific case, my dad who has told me stories of sneaking into the Garden back in like the 1960s, for how long that team suffered, for how bad it was for so long. And the Knicks, again, they're a year away from and hopefully it ends this year and we don't have to talk about it anymore. They just gone 54 years without a championship. I'm like again the Messier slander. I feel bad for people in the sense that I think it is mostly ignorance. I don't think that it is malice, but it is wrong nonetheless.
But like, this goes back to the point I made at the beginning of the podcast. Sometimes you don't need to have a comment. It's okay to sometimes not have an opinion on the matter. I promise.
Yeah,
It's okay.
yeah, yeah. Well, some people need the Twitter likes. All right, a few more questions here to get through. Let's go back up to the top here. Czar Igor 23. Should the Rangers trade down from 5 for the Blues 11th and 15 picks, if possible? Maybe they get Smits and Klepov, plug and play guy now, and a player a couple years away. I don't know why the Blues would do that.
I don't know why the Rangers would do that.
I
We've
don't know why
talked
either
about
team
this
would, but I
before.
don't.
And
Yeah,
maybe we talked about this last week when you weren't on the show. Somebody asked this question, and I like dug into it a little bit with granted abstract, analysis.
well, I
Which
remember
is
this was a couple
basically,
weeks ago. Yeah,
yeah, it just doesn't the amount of security that you lose from 5 to 11 is not worth the other late first round pick that you get back. The Rangers, there is a glut of players that I have been told from 3 to 8 that Carl's being one of them, Reed being one of them, who may be one of the best players in the draft. The problem with not drafting McKenna or Stenberg is you just don't know. Maybe Malhotra will be great. Who knows? So I think if you're the Rangers, again, they don't have the luxury. And I understand that this is almost counterintuitive to what I'm about to say. You would think, hey, more prospects is better than less prospects, right? So like grab as many guys as you can. the Rangers don't have the ability to not pick the best player available, and they're getting a really good fucking player at 5. And I don't think they can afford the drop off from 5 to 11, even though they're bringing in another first round pick after that.
Yeah. I think the collective value of 11 and 15 together is still below the value of 5.
Yes.
So it just it doesn't make any sense. And I don't know why either. I mean, I could see why the Blue, I guess I take back what I said initially. I could see why the Blues would want to do that from that understanding, but I really don't think either team would really consider that as a live possibility.
Yeah, well, and it again, we can talk about these things. There's just overwhelming amounts of evidence that teams in the top 5 do not trade down into the, beyond the 10 range unless you're getting look, if the Blues wanted to offer a really good prospect of theirs and what is it, 11 and 20? Is that what it is? Or 11 and 20?
11-15.
Like, maybe, sure, the Rangers are thinking about it just because, yes, in that instance, then there's so much quality or quantity that you take it over the theoretical quality, and maybe those guys are a little bit closer. Look, I still think if the Rangers walk down the road with Minnesota for Trocheck, they're still going to ask for Charlie Stramel, who I think they think is ready for NHL action. Now, the obvious hope is that they also get Yurov, and then you're getting two
Mhm.
guys who are going to be in the NHL next year. I said this last week with Chip. We're also completely forgetting about Liam Greentree, who I do think is going to be making a push to be in the NHL next year. So, like,
Agreed.
the Rangers just they don't their prospect pool is razor thin. They really have no quote unquote sure thing prospects outside of Gabe Perreault, who's basically going to be graduated next year because he's going to be in the NHL. Yes, I understand the logic behind, hey, 2 is more than 1, but I think the 1 that you get at 5 is better than the 2 you're
Yeah.
gonna get at 11 and 15.
While we're talking about this, I just want to make a plug for if you go to the website, blueshirtbanter.com, and go click on the tab in the menu for draft/prospects, and you will find all of the coverage that we have. And Chris and Roberto, in particular, have been doing some really, really great stuff. So they both have first edition mock drafts up. They have the series called Making the Case, where they're looking at a whole different panoply of players that the Rangers could select with that 5th overall pick, making the case for and also against drafting those players at 5th overall. There's a scouting report on the QMJHL, the regular prospect pipeline scouting reports. There's the draft radar scouting reports. There's more. There's an analysis that Roberto did on the options the Rangers have at 26 overall. There are more mock drafts that are coming. I know a lot of you have been really eating up the prospect and draft coverage. Go over there, take a look, become a member at Blue Shirt Banter. You'll get access to all of that. There's a lot more to come. So be sure to check all of that out. Okay, from Chip. These are the coaches currently on deals that expire after the 2026-27 season. Okay, ready? Here they are. Joel Quenneville of the Ducks, Jared Bednar of Colorado, Rick Bowness, Columbus, John Hines, Minnesota, Martin St. Louis, Montreal, Andrew Brunette, Nashville, Ryan Warsofsky, San Jose, Andre Turigny, Utah, Spencer Carberry in Washington, and Scott Arniel in Winnipeg. Whose seat is hottest? I'm going to, because I know you're not looking at it. There's a chat in our little Riverside thing here. I'm going to put those names in there so you can look at them. Quenneville, Bednar, Bonus, Hines, St. Louis, Brunette, Warsofsky, Turigny, Carberry, and Arniel. Whose seat is hottest?
It's gotta be Arneal. Just the drop off from where they were, the way that they lost in the playoffs 2 years ago. That, like, again, to the St. Louis Blues, actually, that just on the game 7 from the gods. How is it not them? Then you're not making the playoffs, and Winnipeg was a really bad team this year. It's certainly not Tortorella, it's not St. Louis, Quinville, no.
It's not Quenneville, it's not Bednar, it's not
No.
Pines in Minnesota, it's not St. Louis, it's not Turigny in Utah, it's not Carberry in Washington. I think you're probably right about Arneal. I am gonna throw in, there's a couple other guys that I consider to be runners up here. Uh, Rick Bowness in Columbus. Columbus is so dysfunctional that I think almost anybody who is the head coach there is almost immediately on the hot seat because that is just a dysfunctional franchise. Andrew Brunette, there has been so much inconsistency in Nashville, and I have no idea what direction that team is going to take.
New
They
general
did
manager,
bounce.
too.
Yeah, they did bounce back. He has an option for 27, 28. They did bounce back some last season, but it is not a particularly good team. The real wild card there for me is Ryan Warsofsky in San Jose, mostly because that is a guy that there's not a lot of experience there. There's a team that is going to move over the next couple of seasons into being, hopefully for them, a contender. And it is typically not the guy that develops them into the playoff team. They've not made the playoffs yet. It is typically not the guy that gets them to the dance for the first time that ends up being the team that gets to take them on the runs. So I'm going to say there's a decent possibility that his seat is hot because they're going to go for, as teams often do, coaches with more experience.
Yeah, if you put a gun to my head, I'm thinking Winnipeg is just an
I think you're right
untenable
about Arneal,
situation,
though.
and I just
Yep.
don't know how you go anywhere else.
Let's see. What else do we have? Related to that state of hockey is or should, I guess we could talk about the should here. Is or should Jared Bednar be on the hot seat? Is the Avs job his until he decides to leave, much like John Cooper in Tampa? The
Yeah, he's
guy's a
not going
damn good
anywhere.
coach who would have his pick of any NHL team, and the Avs haven't won jack in years. This The Colorado Avalanche, after having the season that they have had, getting steamrolled like this by Vegas is just really a wild thing. And Bednar, I think the analogy that State of Hockey makes here is right, that it is just like Cooper. It would take multiple seasons of not just like losing in the conference final level disappointment, of like multiple seasons of a combination of first round exits and missing the playoffs, I think, for that kind of change to be made. And I don't see that happening anytime
Yeah,
soon.
if he were fired, every single team in the NHL would have a conversation about firing their coach to bring him in.
Except Tampa, but yes.
The Rangers would get in a room and have a conversation. Now, obviously, I should take that back because Drury and Sullivan are boys. If you and me were running the team, we would have that
Yeah.
conversation. Chris Drury obviously would not. But that's it, you don't fire a guy like that. I think there's a sound argument to be made that this has been sort of a playoff season from the gods if you're Vegas, and just yeah, not necessarily something that I would expect to have happen. I think he would be the hottest coaching commodity since Mike Sullivan.
Yeah.
And you're right, John
Great.
Cooper's not going anywhere. So
Yeah. Two more questions. First, from Nicole Vitale. Thoughts on any of these leaked hometown remix jerseys? I'm hearing Navy. They just did that with the third jersey a couple seasons ago. Am I the only one who wants to see them do a cool black alternate jersey or even red? I've seen some of these supposed leaked ones. I have not seen one for the Rangers yet. I really don't have any opinion on a jersey I haven't seen yet, other than to say I agree that something different like black or red would be cool to see as an alternate that they wore occasionally, but more rarely on the occasional side of things. We've gotten a lot of different shades of blue. We talked about this. So like I really loved the Centennial jerseys this year and that different shade of blue. But yeah, I would love to see something that is outside of the blue or white set that we typically get for alternates.
such a purist with the Rangers crest and just jerseys that I don't know if I'd want to see something black or red. And I don't know, maybe I've become an old man and it's just old man yells at clouds, but I just don't need it. I'm good. I'm good.
Old man yells at Liberty Crest.
I hate the Liberty Crest.
I know.
Truly. So
you're
I'm
a
probably
monster.
the
It's fine.
wrong person to ask this question to, Nicole.
Last question, a little related, from 84 Jorts. Who should be on my next Ranger jersey? He says, I have Lundqvist, Zuccarello, and Cooley. Joe, who do you have?
Just
You have
Lundqvist.
0? You just have Lundqvist?
Yeah, no current Rangers.
No, I wasn't asking current Rangers. I was asking
I only
who
have
all do you
Henrik
have?
Lundqvist.
That's the only name jersey you have?
That is the only name jersey I have.
Interesting.
I have a blank Rangers jersey that doesn't have anybody on the back. I hysterically have made my wife purchase a Ryan Callahan jersey and a Chris Drury jersey. Callahan, I think, was traded the very next year, and I think Chris Drury was bought out right after. Now, Chris Drury wore 23. That was my wife's number when she played lacrosse in college, so there was a little bit more of a connection there. But no, for my birthday, my brother-in-law wanted to get me a jersey. I'm fine with my Lundqvist jersey. It's signed by Brian Leach, very weirdly. I'm not
weird.
I'm not a huge. I don't know. My relationship with the Rangers is twisted and strange, and I was dangerously close to getting a lot for their
jersey. He says on a podcast he does weekly where he talks about the Rangers, a team with whom his relationship is twisted and strange.
Yeah, I was close to getting a Lafreniere jersey, and then that obviously fell through, and now I don't know. Maybe if they get Stenberg, I'll get a Stenberg jersey. How does that sound? Tell you what, if the Rangers manage to get Stenberg, I will buy a Stenberg jersey before he even plays a single game with the New York Rangers.
I like it. All right. Everybody get ready to hold Joe to this. I have a Lundqvist jersey. I have a Zuccarello jersey. I have a Ryan McDonough jersey that is the Heritage one with New York in the diagonal text. I really love that jersey with the Captain C patch on it as well. I had the oldest jersey that I have is the white Liberty jersey that I got with no player's name on it, but I got personalized with the Captain C and Brian Leach. And I have a Capo Caco jersey. And for the next one, I will probably get a Shesterkin jersey. I would love for, say, Gabe Perreault to just become such a star that it's undeniable that I got to get a Perreault jersey. I've really been waiting for someone. I feel almost in a way that I didn't get a Mika jersey when Mika was the undeniable biggest player on the Rangers. I don't have a Fox jersey. I don't have an Igor jersey. I feel like I've missed kind of the window with that group of players, and I'm waiting for that next player to really clearly establish themselves and scream out to me that that's the one that I need to get.
Hand up, I forgot about Perreault. I'll totally get a Perreault jersey. Got to wait a little bit, to your point, but I would absolutely get a Perreault jersey.
That concludes the questions.
We've given the people an hour and a half. This is truly impressive work by Eric and I, considering there is fucking nothing going on right now. So you're all welcome. You're welcome for this. BlueshirtBanter.com, $85 a year, get you all your ad-free access to the New York Rangers. Follow us on Facebook.com/BlueshirtBanter, YouTube.com/BlueshirtBanter, BlueshirtBanter.com/BlueshirtBanter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen, wherever you shove us into your ears, please leave us 5 stars, leave a nice review. We appreciate all of those things. Anything else you want to add, Eric?
I'm tired, Jeff.
I'm also tired, and I have to take a flight tomorrow because of you. All right. If you guys need anything, you know where to find us in a week. So make sure it's not an emergency today because that would be a problem. Anyway, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for joining. We will see you next week. Bye for now.